Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nadira Binti Vanessa and my number metric is 297.61. So today I'm going to present about my poster, which is the relationship between electronic waste exposure and risk perception among UUM students. So now I'm going to explain about my introduction part. Okay, e-waste. What is e-waste? Okay, e-waste is a short form of electronic waste that refer to discarded electrical or electronic devices that are no longer usable, wanted, or functioning. So like right now, the rapid growth of electronic technology has created increased e-waste. So this product contain harmful chemicals like lead and mercury, which is dangerous to health and environment if it disposed of in careless manner. So university students use electronic product intensively and potentially exposed to the e-waste through the handling of old devices, which is the recycling and the proximity to rubbish. Little known about frequencies of exposure among students and their knowledge of risk. Next, I'm going to explain about the problem statement. Okay. The problem statement that I put in this poster, which is it perceived a lack of awareness and understanding among the student regarding the dangers of poor handling and disposal of e-waste. Also, lack of research that specifically investigate the extent of exposure of UUM students to e-waste and how it affect their attitudes toward e-risk. So next for research question. So the research question that I think suitable for this study, which is what is the frequency of e-waste exposure among university students? Second is what are student perception of the health risk associated with electronic waste exposure. Then the third one is how aware are university students of the environmental risk associated with the improper electronic waste disposal. Okay, next I'm going to explain about the research objective of this study. So first, to measure the frequency of e-waste exposure among university students. So this objective aims to find out how often students come into contact with electronic waste in their daily life, whether through handling, disposing, or being around old or broken electronic devices. So it helps determine how common e-waste exposure is in the student population. Second is to assess students' perception of health risks associated with e-waste exposure. So, this is focused on understanding what a student believe or know about the health danger exposed by e-waste. So, it seeks to identify whether students are aware of risks such as the toxic matter exposure, respiratory issues, or long-term health problem linked to the poor electronic waste handling. Okay, lastly is to investigate the relationship between the frequency of e-waste exposure and students' risk perception of e-waste environmental and health impact. So this examinates with the students who are more frequently exposed to e-waste perceive the risk differently than those who are less exposed. So the goal is to determine if exposure level influence their understanding and concern about the health and environmental issues. So next I'm going to explain about the hypothesis. So first hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between the frequency of electronic waste exposure and risk perception among UM students. The second hypothesis is higher frequency of exposure to electronic waste positively influence risk perception level in students. So next, I'm going to explain about the literature review. So my IV is frequency electronic waste exposure, and my DV is risk perception among UM students. I'm using the study by Islam and Huda 2018 that inspired my questionnaire item, which is titled in Malaysia, Generation Awareness, Disposal and Recycling Practice, that published in Environmental Science and Pollution Research. So the second author that I inspired to make my questionnaire item is by Rulia Akhtar, Muhammad Mahdi Mahsud, and Rafia Afroz, which is they explore about the e-waste exposure and risk perception. Okay, the title is Household Perception and Recycling Behavior on Electrical Waste Management, which is a case study of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So it investigates how awareness, knowledge and risk perception influence attitude and recycling behavior regarding the e-waste among the household in Kuala Lumpur. So it's highly relevant to my research, which is on UUM student. So for the framework part, I'm just put the IV and the DV. So my first IV is frequency of electronic waste exposure, and my DV is risk perception among UM students. So in this part, it have underpinning theories, which is that the underpinning theories that I'm using is system theory, resource-based view, which is the RBV, and social exchange theory. So in my study, I'm using the system theories. So for my study, system theories is to show how increased exposure might trigger students to become more aware or cautious, which is thereby contributing to a feedback loop where perception affect collective behavior and ultimately system outcome, like this campus waste management. For RBV consider knowledge. So in this case, if students perceive electronic waste as a risky, that awareness become a strategic asset for the university. So UM could leverage this insight to build stronger environmental policies, which is student-led the initiative or educational campaign to focus on the safe disposal. Last is social exchange theory. So how it applies. So this theory suggests people weigh the benefits and costs of the action. So in my study, students may choose the engage or not with the e-waste depending on perceived risk versus the convenience. For example, if the proper disposal requires effort but offer a little direct reward, they might ignore the best practices unless they perceive a higher risk, for example, health hazard, which tip the balance towards safer behavior. Lastly, I'm going to explain about the methodology part. So first, what type of research that I'm using. So I'm using the quantitative method. Second, what unit analysis that I'm using. So I'm using the individual because I'm using individual because since the study focus on UUM student and their personal experience, awareness and behavior, so each student is an individual unit of this analysis. For the respondent, I'm taking for a population because I'm taking the undergraduate and postgraduate student to enroll at University Utara Malaysia student. Next, for the instrument development, it's structured questionnaire using Likert scale and multiple choice item. So source of my instrument, which is my IV, is frequency of electronic waste exposure. So for the question, I'm taking 5 questions for the same author, which is the Islam, MT and Huda at 2018. We study from them. So the question is, I frequently handle outdated or broken electronic devices. I store unused or non-functioning electronic gadgets in my living space. Third, I dispose of electronic devices through general waste bin rather than recycling. Fourth is, I regularly upgrade my electronic devices, which contributing to personal e-waste. And 5, I have participated in e-waste disposal or awareness program in the past. Next is how my data being collected. So I'm using the distribution method, which is I'm using the Google form. So I'm using the Google form and send it the link of the Google form to UUM student via emails or university platform like WhatsApp or Instagram. Okay, lastly about the analysis tool, I'm using the SPSS, which is the descriptive state, reliability, correlation, and possibly regression. I think that's all from me explaining my poster. Thank you.